Hey guys, welcome to what's the difference between Ratchet and Clank on PS2 and Ratchet and Clank on PS4. I'm your host, so let's get started. Over the years, Insomniac has released 3 sequels on the PlayStation 2 and 4 sequels on the PlayStation 3. On top of that, there have been spin-offs such as Size Matters and Secret Agent Clank, both of which were made by High Noon Games, and Ratchet and Clank All for One and Full Frontal Assault. This year, Insomniac has released a reimagining, in other words a reboot, of the PlayStation 2 game. So let's dive into what's the difference between this game and the old game from 2002. To start off with, the original game was a origin story. So everything was brand new. You were seeing how Ratchet met Clank and their adventure together to defeat the evil Chairman Drek. In this game, however, it starts off with a new character called Shiv Helix entering a prison, and he meets none other than Captain Copernicus Leslie Quark. You heard that right, his middle name's Leslie. After they meet, Captain Quark decides to tell Shiv about how Ratchet met Clank, how he met the two heroes, and what happened throughout the game. This is where things start to get interesting. When you first see Ratchet, he's in his garage in Veldoon. However, there's also another character called Grim, who's played by John Goodman in the upcoming movie. It turns out that when Ratchet was orphaned, Grim was the guy who raised Ratchet, and Ratchet, in the present day, is hoping to enter the recruitment contest to be part of the Galactic Rangers. In case you're wondering why the name sounds familiar, the Galactic Rangers are the peacekeeping force for the Solana Galaxy. However, they don't make a canon appearance in the original series until Up Your Arsenal, which is the third game. So, anyway, after a brief calibration test, Ratchet makes his way to the tryouts for the Galactic Rangers. He successfully completes an obstacle course, however he gets kicked out by Captain Quark and Cora, who's played by Bella Thorne in the movie, as well as Brax, due to him being small stature, not muscular, and for having an extensive criminal rap sheet. Anyway, after this event, you see Clank's birth, which is similar to the original game. However, you don't see Clank's mother. What happens is, you see a manufacturing line, and Chairman Drek and his second-in-command, played by Sylvester Stallone, otherwise known as Victor Von Ion, both see Clank, and Victor decides to chase Clank. However, Clank manages to escape. Then you cut back to Planet Veldin. Ratchet is very upset after being rejected by the Galactic Rangers, and this is where he sees a shooting star in the sky crashing, which is similar to the first game, although in much higher definition, and it turns out Clank was the guy who he ends up seeing. Clank still has the message, he needs to see the Galactic Rangers. However, Ratchet says that he's part of the Galactic Rangers. So both of them make their way to planet Novalis, where the game follows a similar path to the first game. However, the ship they used in the original game was one which was made by Ratchet in his spare time. However, in this game, the ship is made for a customer who dropped it off at Grim's garage, where him and Ratchet decide to fix it up. Anyway, storyline follows a similar path until Planet Metropolis, where it turns out that the Galactic Rangers are defending against Chairman Drek's forces. This is where you meet the rest of the Rangers. Brax, who's a former contestant in the Gladiator ring. Ilara, played by Rosario Dawson, who is a bit of a technophile and is shown to be playing an interesting video game. Cora, who, as I previously mentioned, is played by Bella Thorne, and Captain Quark. It is here where Ratchet actually meets Captain Quark for a second time and is officially enrolled in the Galactic Rangers along with Clank. In the original game, Ratchet has to go through an obstacle course, which he does do in this game. However, he's awarded a slingshot by classic Ratchet and Clank character Helga, who everyone knows is a bit big, muscular, and stereotypically German, stroke Austrian. In this game, in the original game, Ratchet meets a robot version of Quark and doesn't meet the actual version until he completes Skid McMarx's race in Planet Blackwater. Ratchet meets Skid McMarx in this game and his agent. However, the levels are a bit more complicated. Fast forward the game, and Ratchet and Clank are trying to disable the planetary destroyer, where Ratchet is captured by Chemin Drek. Whilst he's being carried away, he sees none other than Captain Quark receiving a massage by Blagian, and that is where he realises that Captain Quark is a bad guy. In the original game, he finds out a similar way, but he isn't really captured. However, one key difference is that Ratchet gets ejected from a ship, and Drek decides to blow up a planet. In the original game, Quark shows no remorse, but in this game, he sees the error of his ways, and it is at this point you realise he wants to redeem himself as a hero. In the original game, Captain Quark decides to fight Ratchet and Clank in a spaceship battle, which he ultimately loses, crash lands on the planet, and ends up selling them some useless device. In this game, however, he decides to confront Chemin Drek about working with Dr. Nefarious, as Dr. Nefarious is an evil villain, more so than he appeared in the other games. When Dr. Nefarious finds out about this is where the major plot change happens versus the original game. In the original game, Dr. Nefarious isn't there, and there's no confrontation scene. In this game, however, he tells Quark to stop being a baby, he turns Chemin Drek into a sheep, and then sends him flying using a spaceship. Ratchet and Clank, when they decide to destabilize the planet disruptor, they decide to confront Captain Quark, but after they've confronted Quark about it, Dr. Nefarious turns up in his ultimate weapon, where he fights them, and ultimately crashes into a mini supernova, thereby killing him. Or so we think. In the original game, Jack, after tons and tons of defeats, decides to get even with Ratchet by destroying planet Veldin completely. Why? Because Veldin's in the ultimate orbit. He uses the planet destroyer to fight Ratchet and Clank, but ultimately he ends up getting killed on the planet which he built for himself. In the new game, when Quark is finished telling his story, both him, Shiv Helix, and a bunch of other prisoners are doing trash cleaning near the Hall of Heroes, where Quark is just staring at his gold statue. In the meantime, Ratchet and Clank end up arriving at the Hall of Heroes, running into Captain Quark, saying that they're there on official business. Next thing you see is Shiv Helix hijacking Ratchet and Clank's new spaceship and flying away. Ratchet and Clank decide that they need to chase him, and then they offer Captain Quark the opportunity to join them, after which Captain Quark is looking really happy, as it means it's a good chance for him to redeem himself.